Imagine for a second, right? You decide to give a team of, well, incredibly enthusiastic but totally amateur cooks a commercial kitchen.
Oh boy. I feel like I know where this is going.
Right, but it's not just any kitchen. It is fully stocked with, like, hyper-speed robotic blenders, autonomous ovens, instant prep stations.
Sounds amazing, honestly.
It does, but here's the catch. You don't give them a recipe, so what actually happened?
You are definitely not getting a Michelin star meal out of that.
Or you're just going to get terrible, confusing soup.
Right.
And it's going to be created 100 times faster than humanly possible.
It's a pretty messy visual, but it is, I mean, it's incredibly accurate to what is happening in software development right now.
Yeah.
We have essentially handed every single product team a hyperspeed blender.
Yeah, and that is the exact paradox we are tackling today. So for context, we are pulling from two massive, very recent editions of the TLDR Product Management Newsletter.
Right, specifically the ones from late April and early May of 2026.
Exactly, and these editions are just absolutely loaded with, trend analyses, sponsor deep dives, and fundamental product principles.
There is a ton of ground to cover there.
There really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to take all of these disparate insights and synthesize them into a cohesive survival guide for you.
Because the reality is, what these sources reveal, is that AI isn't just changing what we build anymore.
Right. It is fundamentally breaking and reshaping how we build it. And in the process, it's really exposing the deepest cracks in our own human organizations. Okay, let's unpack this.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the best place to start is right there with your blender analogy. Because the core challenge in product management has completely flipped.
Flipped how? Like, what was it before?
Well, it used to be about figuring out how to build something efficiently, because engineering resources were scarce. They were the bottleneck.
Right, you had to be really careful about what you sent to the engineers.
Exactly. But now the friction of creation is essentially gone. AI has made building features incredibly easy, which, counterintuitively, means the absolute hardest job a product manager has today is deciding what not to build.
Because if you can build anything instantly, the natural gravity just pulls you toward product bloat.
Totally.
Yeah.
You just add features because you can.
Right. And there's this concept that came up in the Architecture Weekly Insights regarding this whole hyperspeed building process. They look at the ODA loop.
Ah, yeah. Observe, orient, decide, and act.
Exactly. It's a military framework originally, but it applies perfectly to product teams. Historically, that act phase...
The actual writing the code, testing it, deploying it.
Yeah, that phase took weeks or even months. It was this natural bottleneck that basically forced you to have time to observe and orient.
But AI makes that act phase almost instantaneous.
Right. So if you aren't careful, your loop just becomes act, 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 act.
Just a blender with no off switch.
Exactly. You're just shipping features without ever actually stopping to observe if anyone wants them or orienting yourself to the market.
And that lack of orientation is so dangerous because AI is, at its core, an amplifier. I mean, it does not generate strategy.
It just scales what's already there.
Right. It magnifies whatever strategy or, lack of strategy is already in place. If your goal is just to produce lines of code or UI mockups, AI will happily give you 10 times the output.
But as Jeff Gotthelf points out in his piece, outputs are not outcomes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without clear, measurable goals guiding the prompts, AI simply accelerates the execution of the wrong work.
Which brings up the danger of what the industry is starting to call vibe-coded prototypes.
Oh, vibe-coded. Yeah, that phrase is everywhere now.
It really is. One of the design insights from Miro really hammered this home. A vibe-coded prototype is basically something an AI whips up in an afternoon.
Right. It looks incredibly polished. The buttons click, it has a cool gradient, it passes the visual vibe check.
Yeah, but it has absolutely no collaborative input from engineering about, actual feasibility or from users about utility.
It looks like a finished product, but structurally, it's just a house of cards.
Exactly. And that false sense of completion is such a huge trap for teams right now.
Because the underlying logic just hasn't been tested. You still need to validate concepts in under a day, collaboratively, with your actual human team before you commit to the real architecture.
Right, because if you skip that human validation, you run into the exact issues highlighted by the Nielsen-Norman group. They just put out these new guidelines for AI chatbots.
And they make a great point, right? Even a seemingly simple feature like a chatbot isn't just a basic text box anymore.
No, it's an entire user experience, and it succeeds or fails based on really deliberate design choices.
Like, does it clearly state its own capabilities? Is it accessible?
Yeah, does it actively guide the user's interaction, or does it just leave them staring at a terrifyingly blank prompt?
Those small, incredibly human design choices determine whether your lightning-fast AI output is actually a helpful tool or just, an incredibly frustrating roadblock.
Okay, so if we accept the premise that AI is just this massive amplifier of our existing strategies, then the immediate bottleneck is no longer the technology.
Right, it's us.
Yeah. The sheer relentless speed of AI is forcing companies to look in the mirror at their own internal organizational mess.
This raises an important question, though, and it's a really uncomfortable truth a lot of teams are facing. Betty Junod wrote about this. AI isn't fixing organizational problems. It is actively exposing them.
How so? Like, what kind of problems?
Well, if a team suffers from poor communication or a lack of historical context or just misaligned goals, handing them an enterprise AI tool just makes them fail louder and faster.
Wow. Yeah, there was a fascinating piece from Decoder on this. They called it the wrong black box problem.
I love that framing.
Me too. Because for the last few years, everyone has been talking about AI as this mysterious black box that we need to decode. But their argument is that the real black box is the company itself.
It's a brilliant reframing. Think about how a typical company actually operates. I mean, the true operating model is rarely written down in some official handbook.
Right. It exists in tacit knowledge, unwritten cultural norms, hallway
The
conversations,
way a specific manager likes their reports formatted.
the stuff you only learn after, like surviving there for 6 months.
Exactly. But AI only understands explicit knowledge. It relies entirely on the rules and documentation it is actively fed.
So if an organization cannot explicitly describe how it truly operates or how it makes decisions, what happens?
The AI will just confidently execute the wrong processes based on incomplete data. Winning in this era requires translating all that tacit human knowledge into explicit frameworks.
And when that explicit framework is missing, you just get absolute chaos. Amy C. Mitchell had a great warning about this.
Oh, about the specific nightmare of multiple product managers owning the exact same problem.
Yes. If you don't have clear ownership and you have 3 different PMs asking the AI to optimize 3 different metrics that conflict with each other.
You just lose all trust internally.
Exactly. You cannot move fast if the crew is steering the ship in 3 totally different directions.
Which is why the discipline at the very beginning of the product lifecycle is more critical than ever. Product Party had this great realization. They said strategy doesn't die in the grand quarterly roadmap presentations.
It dies in the intake form.
Yes, it dies in the intake form.
I love that phrase so much. Let's actually pause on that because it's such a profound realization. What does it actually mean for a strategy to die right there?
Well, think about the intake form, the ticket, the request document, whatever a team uses to actually initiate work.
The JIRA ticket, basically.
The high-level strategy from leadership might be increase user retention. But the intake form gets filled out by someone who's built a dark mode toggle because a big client asked for it.
Ah, I see.
The intake form is where abstract strategy is supposed to translate into daily execution. But if there isn't incredible discipline at that specific choke point, teams just accidentally start building low-value features because the form was approved.
And the AI will just happily build the dark mode toggle in an hour, completely ignoring the fact that it does absolutely nothing for retention.
Exactly. It's the translation layer. And if the translation is bad, the speed of execution doesn't matter at all.
Run the Business referred to this necessary balance of strategy and execution as a ballet wrapped in violence.
It is quite the metaphor.
It really is, but it makes total sense. You need the meticulous choreography, the clear direction, and the discipline of a ballet, combined with the rapid, aggressive, almost violent speed of execution and market learning.
And choreographing that ballet takes the entire organization. Elena Verna pointed out a major shift in how roles like product marketing are viewed now.
Right. PMM isn't just an afterthought anymore.
Exactly. You don't just build a product and then toss it over the fence to marketing to figure out how to sell it. It has to be an enabling system from day one.
They provide the customer insights that help define those explicit boundaries, right? The why, before the AI even writes a line of code.
Exactly.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, though.
Go for it.
We're talking about how humans need to clean up their internal communication, write better intake forms, make tacit knowledge explicit. But isn't the ultimate promise of AI that it will eventually be smart enough to just organize this messy human process for us?
That is a very, very common assumption.
Right. Like, why spend months fixing our internal alignment if an advanced LLM can just ingest all of our chaotic Slack messages and synthesize a perfect plan?
It sounds great, but it ignores the fundamental limits of computation versus context. An AI is fundamentally a pattern-matching engine. It can absolutely summarize your chaotic Slack messages.
Okay, so what's the issue?
What it cannot do is infer a strategic intention that hasn't actually been agreed upon by the human beings in the room.
Oh, wow.
If your marketing team and your engineering team have fundamentally different philosophies on what the product should be, the AI can't resolve that human conflict.
It'll just oscillate between their competing instructions.
Exactly. Humans have to define the boundaries. We have to provide the why, because you simply cannot compute consensus.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, step one is cleaning our own house. We define the rules, we master the intake form, we align the humans.
Right.
But let's say a company actually does that. They achieve the ballet. The next massive hurdle is figuring out if they are actually winning out there in the market.
And from what all these sources are saying, the old ways of measuring success and defending your territory are completely dead.
They really are. Edward C's framework stood out here. The concept of a moat, like a defensible competitive advantage, has completely transformed.
Yeah, he looks at the evolution from wedges to control points.
Right, because every product starts as a wedge, right? It solves one specific, painful problem to get a foot in the door.
Like a free PDF converter, for example. That's a wedge.
It gets you a user, but it doesn't keep them.
Exactly. Lasting advantage only comes from evolving that wedge into a control point. A control point is a piece of infrastructure that others fundamentally depend on to operate.
And in an AI-driven world, whoever holds the control point determines the winner.
Because the features themselves are no longer defensible.
Right, because of the cloning. The Product Power newsletter blew my mind with this. The idea that distribution is the final, ultimate moat.
It has to be.
If your company spends 6 months developing a magical new AI feature, a well-funded competitor with a good engineering team can practically clone it by the following weekend.
The software itself is essentially commoditized.
So how you distribute that product and how deeply integrated it is into the user's life, that control point, is the only thing keeping you alive.
Which is exactly why you are seeing top apps completely change their onboarding and monetization strategies right now. Retention.blog broke this down.
Yeah, delay the paywall, right?
Yes. The winning formula right now is to prove value incredibly early, build a psychological and operational commitment from the user, and delay the paywall as long as financially possible.
You want to lock in the distribution and become a habit before you ever ask for a dollar.
Because the absolute moment you introduce friction, they can just leave and use a competitor's clone.
But wait, so what does this all mean for the listener who is building a product today? If features are worthless and distribution is everything, should they just stop building and only focus on marketing?
That's the trap. The build absolutely still matters. But the nature of the build has fundamentally changed.
How so?
You aren't building isolated features anymore. You are building connective tissue. Your build must be inextricably tied to establishing that control point.
Okay, but how do you measure if that's actually working? The Sauce CFO newsletter had a wild take on this.
Oh, the shift from seats to work units. This is perhaps the most profound shift for the entire business of software.
Break that down for me. What exactly is a work unit in this context?
Well, think about traditional CRM software. Historically, you sold a seat for, let's say, $100 a month to a sales rep, and your metric of success was basically whether they logged in and clicked around.
You were selling access to a tool.
Exactly. But with AI, the software can actually do the work. So instead of selling a seat, you sell a work unit. You charge for 100 qualified leads, generated, researched, and emailed.
Wow. So the metric of success is the outcome itself.
Right. Winners in this new landscape will clearly define, track, and price these completed AI work units. You become the infrastructure doing the work, not just the interface hosting the worker.
And to understand those work units, you have to look at data entirely differently. There was a concept from opinionated intelligence that sounded completely backwards to me at first.
The one about not asking your data questions.
Yeah. They literally said, stop asking your data questions, which is wild because our whole data culture is built on querying, right?
Right. You write a SQL query to ask, what was our churn rate last month? But their point is that traditional data tools only answer what we already know to ask.
You are constrained by your own imagination.
Exactly. True discovery in an AI environment is about letting the intelligence find the insights and patterns you didn't even know were happening. The system should be highlighting anomalies automatically.
Which connects directly to why companies like Reveal BI are pushing so hard for embedded analytics SDKs.
Oh, absolutely. If you are selling completed work units, You can't have your users constantly leaving your product to log into a separate analytics dashboard just to see what happened.
You completely break their workflow.
And you fragment their attention. By using an embedded software development kit, an SDK, you weave white label intelligent dashboards directly into the natural flow of your own product.
You bring the intelligence to the exact moment where the decision needs to be made.
It's all about integrating it into the daily rhythm. T.A. McCann talked about this with his 5 motions framework. He argues that we need to completely drop this grandiose language of AI transformations.
Yeah, stop making it a massive, terrifying corporate initiative.
Exactly. Instead, you win by embedding AI into weekly operations. It's about high-signal, daily habits that drive faster learning.
Because the market is becoming incredibly skeptical of grandiose AI claims, Will Lithane made a great distinction between early-stage hypergrowth and late-stage hypergrowth.
Right. In the early days, you are solving one specific acute problem for early adopters, and they are very forgiving.
But late-stage hypergrowth requires solving many complex problems simultaneously for a mainstream market that honestly does not trust your marketing.
You cannot survive that skepticism with a grand transformation plan. You only survive it with reliable weekly operational habits.
And those habits require time to form. Which brings us to one of the most vital concepts in all of these sources. Product Picnic talked about the difference between clock time and calendar time.
This is such a crucial mental model for any product leader right now.
All right.
AI is an absolute master of clock time.
Meaning the literal minutes and hours it takes to do a task. Like an AI can design a landing page in 30 seconds instead of 3 days.
Exactly. It compresses
Okay.
clock time. But creating real, systemic progress within a human organization requires calendar time.
Human beings still need days or weeks to coordinate with each other.
Right, to reflect on new data, to align their departments, and, frankly, to emotionally adjust to a new strategy.
You can't just AI generate trust or alignment in 3 seconds.
You really cannot. And the danger is that if you obsess over optimizing your clock time speed with AI, but you don't allow for the necessary human calendar time to absorb those changes.
You actually worsen your systemic issues.
Exactly. You will just produce the wrong things faster and burn out your entire team in the process.
Okay, so we've covered the internal human mess, we've broken down how to measure success with work units, and we've explored the moats of distribution. Yeah, but all of this, literally every single thing we have discussed so far, relies on one massive assumption.
That a human being is the one buying, interacting with, and using your software.
Right, and that assumption is rapidly becoming obsolete.
This is the true wild frontier of product management right now, the shift toward agentic commerce.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sponsor insights from AstraSync AI and Persona totally cracked this open for me. We are no longer just building software for humans.
No. AI agents are now autonomously interacting with platforms.
They are doing research, they are filling out forms, and they are making actual financial purchases.
It is a staggering shift in the digital economy. The article noted a very telling example. OpenAI actually had to scale back their instant checkout feature recently.
Wait, really? Why?
Because the trust of an autonomous agent cannot just be inferred. Traditional payment gateways lack the structural fraud safeguards to handle a piece of code deciding to buy something on its own.
Imagine you run a bustling retail store, right? And suddenly half the customers walking through your door are robots shopping on behalf of humans.
It's a logistical nightmare.
Seriously, if a robot shoplifts or accidentally buys 10,000 units of the wrong item, who do you call? We are literally trying to figure out how to issue credit scores and ID cards to algorithms.
What's fascinating here is how the industry is responding. They're scrambling to build a Know Your Agent layer, or KYA.
Like KYC for crypto or banking?
Exactly. We are all familiar with the financial compliance frameworks of KYC, Know Your Customer, and KYB for businesses. You verify a passport or a tax ID.
But KYA is an entirely new frontier of identity and accountability.
How do you verify the intent of a script? Trust has to be explicitly granted, scoped to very specific actions, and continuously enforced for a piece of code.
Because if you don't have those safeguards, you end up with this terrifying phenomenon described in the sources as reality drift.
Oh, reality drift, yes.
And this concept is terrifyingly plausible to me.
It really is. Reality drift happens when you have an ecosystem of AI agents interacting primarily with other AI agents.
Just bots talking to bots.
Right. Imagine an AI buyer agent negotiating with an AI sales agent, filling out an AI-generated intake form, whose results are then measured by an AI analytics dashboard.
The humans are completely out of the loop.
Exactly. And the systems can continue to optimize and improve mechanically. They get faster. The metrics look great on the dashboard.
But simultaneously, because there is no human friction to actually ground them, they begin to drift away from real-world human reality.
The map becomes the territory, but the map is being drawn by bots.
GeekWire pointed out that this creates a hidden misalignment where everything in the company feels off or wrong to the humans working there, even when the software says nothing is technically broken.
The metrics are green, but the business is failing.
Exactly. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from their analysis. AI is no longer a product you sell. It is an environment you operate within.
And in this bizarre new environment of agentic commerce, pure efficiency at scale is just a trap.
Resilience and adaptability matter far more, because if your highly efficient automated system loses its anchor to human reality, it will just efficiently execute itself into total irrelevance.
Wow. Yeah, it requires a completely new cognitive framework. The playbooks from the 2010s are officially retired.
They really are. Okay, to synthesize this massive journey we've just been on, AI has handed us the ultimate infinite speed engine. It allows us to build outputs faster than ever before in human history.
But to actually survive this era, we have to install our own brakes and steering wheels.
We have to establish rigorous human control points. We need to fiercely prioritize what not to build. We have to clean up our messy internal communication so our tacit knowledge becomes explicit.
We have to shift our entire business model to measure actual outcomes and work units instead of just feature usage.
And finally, we have to brace for an entirely new environment where our software's primary users might literally be other AI agents.
It is a lot to take in.
It is. And for you listening, as you navigate this wild landscape, remember this. In a world where code, mockups, and features are infinite and instantly commoditized, your unique human ability to reflect, to coordinate your team in calendar time, and to maintain a firm grip on actual human reality, that is your ultimate moat.
No one can clone that by next weekend.
Exactly.
And I will leave you with this final thought to ponder as you look at your own product roadmaps this week. We talked about designing for users, but if AI agents are soon going to be the primary buyers and consumers of our digital products, autonomously navigating our interfaces and consuming our data, are we going to have to start designing user experiences specifically to manipulate the psychology of an algorithm?
Wow. What a profound question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the future of product. Keep your hands on the steering wheel, hold on to your reality, and we will see you next time.
You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken Tech for your ears. Spoken Tech for your ears.